the drop-off program. In this training, we will discuss the drop-off program and how to complete the intake interview for a drop-off client. Before we get started, let me take a moment to outline the drop-off process. The client will visit one of our tax sites. The tax documents will be reviewed with a client liaison. The tax documents will then be scanned to the drop-off program. The drop-off team will prepare and quality review the tax return. The client will be contacted and told to return to any of our tax sites to review the tax return. The client will return to the tax site and review the tax return with a tax-certified staff or volunteer. The tax return will be signed and submitted to the IRS. Clients who wish to take advantage of the drop-off program must not exceed our income limit of $55,000 for up to a family of 4. They must present an unexpired photo ID, must provide Social Security cards or ITIN letters for everyone on the tax return, must have all tax documents required to prepare an accurate tax return. As a client liaison, you should always promote the use of the drop-off program. Here are a few situations where the use of the drop-off program would be helpful. When there is a long wait time at the tax center, clients with tax returns that require specialized certifications, or when the tax office does not have 2 volunteers of the same certification level. For example, there is a client with a tax return that requires military certification, but there aren't any volunteers at the tax center certified to military. Clients who need preparation of a federal and state income tax return. Clients who need tax preparation for tax years that are not available at the tax site, but always check with your manager first if a client is in need of multiple years of preparation. The drop-off program is broken into 3 phases: the intake interview, the preparation phase, and the pickup phase. During the intake interview phase, you will determine if a client is eligible for assistance at the tax centers. Continue with the intake interview as usual. Verify all fields in the intake sheet have been filled out and any unsure answers have been changed to either a yes or no answer. Since the tax return will be sent to the Community Tax Center's headquarters for remote preparation, it's important all information is provided during the intake interview. This means that any document needed to prepare the tax return should be printed during the intake interview. So for example, if a taxpayer presents a Form 1098-T from an educational institution, then you will also need a printed version of the student's account summary statement. Have the client print the statement out while they are with you. When reviewing an intake sheet for a drop-off tax return, an extra step is needed. All of the shaded gray areas in the intake sheet must be completed. This step needs to be completed by someone who is at least basic certified, or if you are not certified to at least basic, that's okay. Please leave this task for a staff member to complete. To relate any additional notes to the tax preparer, please include these notes in the additional comments section at the end of the intake interview sheet. Additional notes may include bank account information for direct deposit, additional contact information, or any details regarding the client's tax return. After reviewing the intake sheet, a drop-off supplemental questionnaire must be completed. Begin filling out the top portion of the questionnaire as if you were creating a processing envelope for the client. Then answer the rest of the questions on the form. When you are finished filling out this form, please hand it to the client to obtain a signature of the consent to use and disclose located on the back side of the supplemental questionnaire. Lastly, give the client a drop-off consent form. This consent gives the community tax centers permission to prepare the client's tax return without the client being present and is required for the drop-off program. Once you have completed the intake interview, let a staff person know that the tax documents are ready to be scanned. The scanner has direct access to tax information for all drop-off clients and requires training to ensure the process is completed correctly. Therefore, only tax staff may use the laptop or scanner to scan drop-off documents. While waiting for the staff member to scan the documents to the drop-off team, organize the documents for the intake coordinator to review. The drop-off scanning cover page will list the documents and the order in which they should be placed. After the staff member has given the tax documents a final review, they will scan the client's documents to the drop-off team. Remember that only tax staff may access the scanner and laptop to complete this step. Feel free to move on to another client once a staff member has begun reviewing the tax documents. The staff member will scan all documents and discuss the drop-off process again with the client prior to leaving the tax site. Once the tax documents have been received, the drop-off team will begin with the tax preparation. Once the tax preparation is complete, they will also conduct a quality review. The drop-off team will place a note in the tax software at each phase of the preparation. If more information is ever needed from the client to complete the tax return, the drop-off team will contact the client to facilitate the delivery of the necessary items. If a client ever returns to the tax site with the additional information requested by the drop-off team, notify a staff member so that they can scan the items to the drop-off team. Once the tax return has been quality reviewed, the drop-off team will contact the client to return to the tax site. The taxpayer and spouse must bring a photo ID in order to review the tax return. If the taxpayer would like to receive their refund via direct deposit, we can add this banking information at this time. Once the taxpayer has reviewed the tax return and agrees with the preparation, the tax return is ready to be submitted to the IRS. If the taxpayer selects to e-file the tax return, we must keep a copy of the signed 8879, but we do not need to keep copies of the W-2s, photo IDs, Social Security cards, or ITIN letters, since all items were scanned to the drop-off team and are now stored digitally. Once the 8879 has been signed, place the form in the cabinet near the manager's desk in a hanging folder labeled Drop-Off. The 8879 will be scanned to the drop-off team for transmitting. If the taxpayer will be submitting the tax return to the IRS by mail, we will not keep any items. Print out and prepare the tax return for mailing as usual. Once the client has left, locate the hanging folder labeled Drop-Off in the cabinet placed near the manager's desk. In the hanging folder, there is a place to log all paper tax returns that have been picked up by our clients. This is a very important step. It helps the drop-off team identify which clients have received their tax returns and which clients need to be contacted a second time to return to the tax site and pick up their copy of the tax return.